Hadirin sekalian, tanpa menunggu lebih lama lagi, kita akan segera melanjutkan ke sesi berikutnya, yakni our panel discussion. Di session 2 akan dilanjutkan dengan fireside chat dengan judul Responsible Supply Chains, Driving ESG Performance in Hospitality. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, in this session, we will explore how a transparent and sustainable supply chain is the key to driving real ESG performance in the hospitality industry. Sesi ini juga akan membahas tentang bagaimana kolaborasi di sepanjang rantai pasok dapat menciptakan perubahan positif yang lebih luas bagi industri pariwisata kita. Baik hadirin sekalian, to lead this fireside session, we are honored to have a seasoned expert in environmental advocacy with over 16 years of experience. Beliau adalah Manager for Consumer Campaign and Engagement di Rainforest Alliance Indonesia dan sosok di balik ACT Project. Dengan rekam jejak yang luas mulai dari WWF hingga IDH, untuk itu, mari langsung saja kita sambut moderator kita pada hari ini, Ibu Mutia Legowo. Silakan Ibu.
Terima kasih. Good afternoon ladies and gentlemen. Selamat sore Bapak dan Ibu sekalian, para pengunjung dan peserta dari The Meru Ecotourism Week 4th edition. Selamat datang kembali Bapak dan Ibu. Welcome back ladies and gentlemen to this room. Semoga semua sudah sempat makan siang dan sudah kembali segar setelah sejak tadi pagi mengikuti sejumlah sesi. Terima kasih atas perkenalannya, tapi saya izin memperkenalkan diri kembali. Nama saya Mutia Legowo. Saya Manager for Consumer Campaign and Engagement dari Rainforest Alliance. Dan saya sehari-hari bertanggung jawab mengawal pelaksanaan inisiatif ACT Project. Bapak dan Ibu yang mau mengetahui lebih banyak tentang ACT Project bisa lihat kunjungi booth kami yang ada di pojok ruangan ini. ACT Project stands for the Acceleration for Consumer Transformation and Sustainability in Indonesia. ACT Project bertujuan untuk meningkatkan permintaan atas produk komoditas kopi, kakao, teh, dan kelapa sawit yang berkelanjutan, khususnya di Bali dan Jogja. Bapak Ibu udah bisa mempelajari lebih lanjut dengan ngobrol-ngobrol di booth ACT Project. Tapi hari ini atau sore ini saya akan membantu Bapak Ibu sekalian, teman-teman dari Ecotourism Week untuk mengawal sebuah diskusi yang sangat menarik. We have a very interesting discussion this afternoon. Disebutkan tadi, tema yang akan dibahas adalah Responsible Supply Chain, Driving ESG Performance in Hospitality. Saya mau cek dulu sebelumnya supaya memastikan we're in the same temperature. By show of hands, can anybody tell me, ada yang tahu singkatan, what does ESG stands for? Ada yang tahu? Pasti tahu lah. ESG, siapa? Yang mau menjawab? Tidak ada? Kayaknya ini narasumbernya yang nanti bisa jawab. ESG stands for Environment, Social, and Governance. Jadi di diskusi pada sore hari ini kita mau mendengarkan bagaimana rantai pasok yang bertanggung jawab yang diimplementasikan di industri hospitality itu bisa mendongkrak kinerja hospitality industry sendiri dalam konteks perlindungan lingkungan, pertanggungjawaban sosial, dan juga tata kelola. Oke, tanpa berlama-lama lagi, izinkan saya memanggil para narasumber kita untuk sore hari ini. Kita punya 4 orang narasumber. we have 4 speakers that will join me on the stage. Saya panggilkan satu persatu. Yang pertama, ini pasti Bapak Ibu udah nggak asing dengan nama bisnisnya. Group Procurement Manager Potato Head, Bapak Dedi Wahyudi. Saya bacakan dulu profilnya sebelum saya panggil. Pak Dedi Wahyudi adalah Group Procurement Manager di Potato Head Group dengan pengalaman di bidang strategic sourcing dan sustainable procurement dalam industri hospitality. Beliau berfokus pada integrasi prinsip ESG dalam praktek procurement dan pengelolaan rantai pasok, serta mendorong kolaborasi jangka panjang dengan supplier lokal dan bertanggung jawab. Kepada Pak Dedi saya persilakan untuk naik ke atas panggung. Tepuk tangan Bapak Ibu sekalian. Oke, kalau ini tadi Pak Dedi mewakili bisnis hospitality, berikutnya adalah mewakili dari CSO atau NGO. Ada Bapak Stefan Condro dari Copernic Harvest. Bapak Stefan Condro merupakan entrepreneur dan sustainability practitioner yang berfokus pada regenerative agriculture, sustainable sourcing, serta pengembangan rantai pasok berbasis komunitas melalui Copernic Harvest. Beliau bekerja bersama petani, komunitas lokal, sektor swasta, dan pemerintah daerah dalam memperkuat rantai pasok berkelanjutan untuk berbagai komoditas dan solusi berbasis lingkungan di Indonesia. Kepada Pak Stefan Condro dari Copernic Harvest, kami persilahkan. Oke, berikutnya saya panggilkan lagi kembali dari private sector atau bisnis, tapi kali ini perannya sebagai pendukung industri hospitality selaku pemasok atau supplier. Ada Bapak Angga Dinala selaku CEO dari Eko Bambu Bali. Bapak Angga Dinala adalah CEO Eko Bambu Bali dan seorang entrepreneur asal Bali Utara yang fokus pada pengembangan hunian dan resort ramah lingkungan berbasis material bambu berkelanjutan. Melalui pendekatan desain organik dan sustainability, beliau mendorong kolaborasi antar sektor hospitality dan supplier lokal untuk menciptakan solusi pembangunan yang lebih bertanggung jawab dan berkelanjutan. Kepada Pak Angga Dinala dari Eko Bambu Bali kami persilahkan. Oke, narasumber kita yang terakhir, last but definitely not the least, karena beliau adalah tuan rumah kita di acara Ecotourism Week ini. Ada Bapak Ed Brea selaku General Manager of the Meru Sanur and Bali Beach Hotel, The Heritage Collection. Bapak Ed memiliki pengalaman puluhan tahun, silakan Bapak, di industri hospitality internasional di berbagai negara Asia Pasifik. Bapak Ed Brea membawa perspektif global dalam pengelolaan hospitality berkelanjutan. Sebagai General Manager The Meru Sanur and Bali Beach Hotel, The Heritage Collection, beliau berkomitmen mengintegrasikan sustainability, budaya lokal, dan koneksi komunitas dalam operasional hospitality modern. Welcome Pak Brea, or should I say thank you for welcoming us to your wonderful home. Okay. So, seperti tadi saya sampaikan, as I said earlier, we're gonna have an interesting discussion. So this is a fireside chat. So actually, the format is like having a chat on the side of the warm of fire. So jadi kita harap diskusi ini bisa hangat, a warm discussion, yet lively, tetap hidup. Dan kita akan ngobrol-ngobrol seputar responsible sourcing atau responsible supply chain yang sounds so serious dan memang serius karena kalau rekan-rekan kalau kita pikirkan semua mungkin yang teman-teman yang bergerak di bisnis hospitality ini yang mungkin bisa lebih aware ya dampak dari mungkin salah satu hal yang paling berdampak dari bisnis hospitality adalah dari aktivitas sourcingnya. Nah tapi mungkin untuk menjelaskan lebih detail saya mau serahkan ke narasumber sebagai pelakunya gitu ya. Mungkin pertanyaan pertama saya ke Pak Dedi selaku perwakilan dari Potato Head Group. Sebagai pelaku bisnis, apalagi Potato Head Group kita kenal sudah sangat luas ya, bisnisnya cukup besar gitu ya. What are the impacts, the significant impacts in terms of ESG ya, environmental, social governance yang dirasakan that Potato Head makes as a business, as a hospitality business, you run a hotel, a restaurant, cafe, clubs as well. What are the impacts that you recognize, you see on the ground from the context of ESG? Silahkan Pak.
Thank you Mbak Metia ya? Mutia. Terima kasih. First of all, let me thanks to tuan rumah. Terima kasih Pak. Terima kasih panitia. Tadi Mbak Mutia tanya impact ya. Bicara sedikit soal procurement. Biasanya kami di procurement itu bicara soal costing ya. Harga tidak lebih mahal, tidak juga murah, tapi kualitas dapat. Jadi tambahan sedikit sekarang ya responsible-nya ya. Yang kita bicarakan ini procurement ini kita bisa kita bilang sekarang procurement itu sebagai decision create environment, social and operational impact. Jadi kami di procurement ini selain bicara impact dari ESG, kami juga bicara dari cost untuk barang-barang tersebut. Yang kami lakukan sekarang di Potato Head adalah kami punya petani-petani binaan yang kita datangi langsung, kita ajak kerjasama langsung, kita ajak collab langsung, dan kita minta mereka untuk komit. Biasanya mereka menanamkan di konvensional dengan secara konvensional pakai pestisida, pakai pupuk kimia dan lain-lain. Kita mereka untuk transisi berubah yang dari sebelumnya konvensional ke proses organik. Jadi secara komitmen mereka bisa merubah behavior mereka yang tadinya menanam secara konvensional sekarang berubah menjadi organik. Tidak lupa juga kami selipkan nih titipan dari manajemen bahwa harganya nih nggak terlalu tinggi tapi masih di atas rata-rata harga pasaran ya. Biasanya mereka kalau jual konvensional kan let's say 100, untuk organik ini kami bisa kasih sedikit 120 atau 125 seperti itu. Terus influence apa lagi yang bisa diberikan ya ternyata panjang. Secara ekonomi pendapatan mereka meningkat, petani-petani ini meningkat. Terus di balik itu ada lagi perubahan-perubahan. Contohnya tanah yang mereka garap sekarang sudah lebih subur karena tanpa pestisida. Terus hasil yang dimakan ini buah dan sayur itu lebih sehat secara organik ya. Tambahan lagi kami kami mengaktifkan kayak delivery ya, kami antar jemput lah ke petani-petani kecil ini karena mereka nggak ada sarana transportasi dan lainnya, jadi kami aktifkan sistem jemput ya. Dan dari situ itu banyak hal yang benefit yang didapatkan dari petani-petani binaan kami. Lebih ke situ sih Mbak.
Oke. Kalau kita bicara soal pertanian organik, if we're talking about organic farming, berarti ini kaitannya dengan F&B ya Pak?
Betul.
Relates to F&B.
Ya.
So that's the F&B part of the procurement gitu ya. Tapi
Exactly.
kalau procurement kan sebenarnya kalau di hotel banyak banget gitu ya. So pasti jadi untuk di sektor F&B dari recognizing the large amount of food and beverages that you source for the group, langkah yang dilakukan adalah merubah sourcingnya ke bahan baku yang lebih organik, kira-kira gitu ya Pak ya?
Betul, salah satunya F&B, tapi kalau di hal lain kayak project itu, contohnya kayu dan lain-lain, biasanya kita, salah satu vendor kita tuh kita syaratkan adalah punya sertifikat dari perhutani ya, bahwa kayunya kayu industri, bukan hasil tebang liar dan sebagainya.
So this is very interesting karena hospitality is also about talking about infrastructures, building
Betul.
gitu ya. Dan langkah yang dilakukan oleh Potato Head adalah memastikan bahan baku seperti kayu, contohnya yang dipakai itu berasal dari hutan atau diproduksi secara bertanggung jawab, bukan dari pembalakan liar.
Betul.
Ya, oke. Menarik sekali. Oke, mungkin saya pindah sedikit karena masih sesama bisnis, because we're still on the hospitality business side, ke Bapak Ed, Mr. Ed Brea. I heard also during the press conference, you mentioned also the Meru has since the beginning is basically established or built incorporating the sustainability elements.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello.
Ya, kedengeran Pak. Can you share a bit with us, like what Potato Head just mentioned? What is the impact that you realize the Meru has as a hospitality complex, you can say, and what is being addressed by the Meru since early on until today?
I can speak to that a little bit. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Beck Deddy and the Potato Head. You set the gold standard in Bali for what you do there for sustainability. You've won accolades worldwide for all the practices, and it starts with procurement. And we actually have modeled a lot of our procurement after what you guys do there, because it's really that source, buying Balinese, but everything else you do to source traceable, materials, and the way you have your system set up there, because and I believe collaboration is more important than compliance. I think that's one of the points you made, but I also think that you did a great job. Thank you. Kudos to Potato Head. So for us, we take an integrated approach. We're part of a very big ecosystem here. We have about 50 hectares of land here as part of the Sonor Special Economic Zone, which most of you know about, which includes the hospitals and the clinics, in the 2 hotels, of course, and the convention center you're in right now. One of the things that we do to integrate that is we run all our facilities management out of the Sonor. So our central plant system there provides us with our water, our electricity, and such. So what we've done there is we've made sure that the water, for example, we'll be bottling our own water very soon, but right now we have bottled water that we provide that's a little bit different. And then once we start bottling our own water in the hotel, we'll spread that out, and as the hospital and the clinics, they all open up, they'll also share the same bottled water. And that'll all be made here in the Sonor, in a complex. So we'll actually bottle our own water. We'll also be doing, as far as the integration of the systems, all the wastewater, the gray water, that's used throughout the complex as well. The waste management is all coordinated through the Sonor as well. Everything is separated on site. We have 6 different types of waste basically, and it's all separated out. We're kind of, right now, we're going to do a little bit, with that as far as, working with the different government, regulatories. Danantara, the sovereign fund for Indonesia, which is basically the BUMN, we're a state-owned enterprise. Eventually, they'll be building a incinerator to produce energy, but that's not going to be probably till a little bit later, in 28, 29. They're already working on those initiatives. So all that waste will be taken care of properly, because we all know that that's one of our biggest challenges here in Bali. But anyway, we pretty much focus on making sure that it's, gotong royong, mutual cooperation among all the tenants and the hotel and the convention center to channel everything through the Sanur, Special Economic Zone, which is, sets the standard. That's pretty much where we're at with most of our things there. Yeah.
Thank you, Pak Ed. So, I think waste is still a big issue today, and Meru has already created integrated management for waste, and then also water management for the whole.
Correct. We also
efficient
do.
use.
We have a Maggie farm, so we make compost with a black fly larvae. So we do that, and we channel that through that's for all the gardens. We use seaweed fertilizer for all the lawns. If you notice, our lawns are very green and lush. Comes out really nice because we use that seaweed silver, which is nice. Those are some of the other initiatives that we do. We're working on some other issues where we're taking all the landscaping debris and we're starting to make compost with that. But that's something we have to get a little bit better organized on. There are certain techniques you can use for that, which we're learning now, and we'll try to apply those as well for as far as the lower the waste that's going out, because that's very, very important to try to manage as much as possible we can here on site. Cooking oil we also recycle through one of the schools. That's another initiative we've undertaken as well, which is working very well for all of us. Yeah.
Thank you. There's so many initiatives. Please give a round of applause for Potato Head Group and the Meru for their wonderful initiative. We hope that these steps can be set as an example or a benchmark by other hospitality businesses as well. And I will move to the next speakers, but I will go back again to Pak Dedi and Pak Ed Brea, and you, gentlemen, you are welcome to share any materials you might have because they have it ready for you. So later on you can show them. I'm moving to Pak Stefan Chondro from Copernic Harvest. Maybe a lot of you is wondering, maybe mungkin sudah pernah ada yang mendengar tentang Copernic Harvest, tapi mungkin ada yang belum. Saya sendiri juga menarik sekali mendengar, tadi kita udah berbincang-bincang tentang peran dari teman-teman Copernic. Copernic has done a lot in sustainability realm, but in terms of responsible sourcing, mungkin Pak Stefan, can you explain to us apa sih yang dilakukan Copernic Harvest nih gitu terkait responsible sourcing, perannya Copernic Harvest ini sebagai apa dan bagaimana, how can it benefit the hospitality industry in driving its responsible sourcing practices?
Thank you, Ibu Mutia. Thank you, Pak Brea, for having us. So, good afternoon, everyone. So, I think in these sessions, personally, I would like to introduce what Copernic Harvest is, and like what Ibu Mutia said, how can our initiative can help the hotels, restaurants, and cafe to source responsibly, and we have a few slides. And I think before I explain a little bit about what we do, so little bit background what Copernic Harvest is, so that I think everyone can, kind of understand what we do. Can we go to the next slide? Oh, which one? Okay. Yes. So over the years, we in Copernic we try to amplify our impacts by having more and more sister company or spin-off, we call it. And I believe most of us already know Maggi Farm. That's also one of the Copernic spin-off. And we have also several others like LOL, Iklim, Perfect Fit, and other type of social enterprise. And like other social enterprise, Copernic Harvest is also going to become a independent social enterprise. And as for the Copernic Harvest itself, we position ourselves as a nature positive trading company, meaning that we connect the farmers to the sustainable market through traceability system and then responsible sourcing. And the way we started this, I think it's because we have been working in this development sector, conservation sectors for the past 15 years, and we see there is a gap in that system, which is usually NGOs, usually community development, they stop what they do when the grant or funding ends. And this is something that we have to acknowledge. And this is how we do this system. And at the same point, we always, memaksa ya, maksudnya drives the farmers to protect the forest, to protect the soils and everything. And in the experience that we do, we also see that there is a fragmented or disconnected between the environmental outcomes and then the community sourcings. That's basically how we think, okay, let's do the Copernic Harvest. And then we do this by creating the shared value. So we want to also explain to the hotels, to the cafe, to the restaurants that we are also responsible for the protecting the environment. And that's basically how we started the Copernic Harvest. And so how we do it, it's basically very simple. So because we have been working in several locations throughout Indonesia, and we have been networking with lots of NGOs throughout Indonesia. So we have so many connections around Indonesia that they do the community developments, and they do have the products. And they have been doing it for years, like 3 years, 4 years, and 5 years. But we don't see there is a continuation from what they do to the table of what we are having it right now. And what we do is very simple. We just go there, ask for our partners, do you have the products? If you have the products, there is a demand, so we can connect it to the buyers. And then it cuts lots of stages from, like the local procurements, warehouse and everything, because we kind of helping them to direct source the buyers. And for the farmers, this means that, they get a better price. Usually, price goes stages from the village level, regional level, and then district level, and then goes to the tables, like our hotels or restaurants. And because we know from our partners and from our networks that we can always source directly, and we get a stable price. And for the hotels, meaning that you know where your product are coming from. I think that is the first step. Okay, we know where our, for example, rice are coming from. You just don't go buy at the market that you don't know who grows your rice. And then we know where the gingers are coming from. We know our orange are coming from. So I think that information itself is important in building the ESG aspect in hotels, and then you can go and do something with the farmers because you're sourcing directly from them. So that is something that we do. And I'm being asked how we can make sure that this product is kind of good or like self, like claim like what they do, because we are not just going and buy from the market and then, hey hotel, this is the product, and then like you can buy from us. No, it's not like that one. It's because we know our partners, we know our communities. They have been trained for years, they have been assisted for years, and the product that we kind of source from them should have been, helping the environment. Like, for example, like the simplest way is we have been working with the orange and coffee farmers in Kintamani. So we asked them to reduce the pesticide, because if you put so many pesticides on the ground, it becomes really hard so that the water doesn't go infiltrate the soil. And then we asked them to reduce so that right now the water can go infiltrate the soil, and then it protect the watershed so that we don't get a flood like in September last year. So this is like small things that we try to make, farmers understand. And I'll stop that here, and we can discuss later on. But basically, this is what we do in Kopernik Harvest. Thank you. Yeah.
Terima kasih Pak Stefan. Thank you Pak Stefan. So, if I could summarize, and please correct me if I'm wrong, semoga saya tidak salah menangkap. Peran dari Kopernik atau Kopernik's role is, it's like a supplier actually, but really focusing on the products came from sustainable source, right? Sustainable source, responsible practices. So you play the role as being the like the middleman, so to speak. Kalau teman-teman yang di sini bergerak di bidang procurement, merupakan perwakilan procurement dari bisnis hospitality masing-masing, mungkin familiar dengan istilah pengepul ya. Beli dari pengepul, beli dari supplier. And most of the time I know, because I have experiences also working with the commodity sector, masih banyak pengepul-pengepul yang prioritizing only on the business side, right? The price that matters, ya. Jadi yang penting beli dengan harga yang ekonomis, yang affordable dari petani, and then jual ke buyer dengan harga yang tentunya harus menguntungkan, gitu kan. Seringkali teman-teman di CSO juga harus bicara sama teman-teman supplier, bagaimana mereka juga memastikan produknya itu sustainable. Tapi Kopernik has taken this role, an active role of ensuring that the products that they source, yang tercantum di sini di presentasinya tadi ada kakao, ada vanilla, ada coffee beans, seaweed, dan banyak lainnya, itu is actually come from sustainable practices. Dan ini saya pikir sesuatu yang masih belum banyak dan harus lebih banyak lagi. Dan ini yang, this is the kind of suppliers that the hospitality business needs to look for. Dan mungkin mendorongkan existing suppliernya gitu untuk bisa mengarah ke praktek-praktek yang dilakukan oleh Kopernik Harvest. Oke, tepuk tangan dong buat Kopernik Harvest, Bapak Ibu sekalian. Nah, karena kita sudah mulai bergeser bicara soal supplier, saya mau bicara to the actual supplier yang punya produk. Karena kalau Kopernik ini kan perantara ya. Kalau Eco Bamboo Bali is an actual supplier of a commodity which is bamboo. Nah, mungkin dari Eco Bamboo bisa share Pak tentang minat terhadap sustainability atau sustainable product yang Bapak tawarkan ini gitu kan. Dan how do you see the market for, and how do you deal with the procurement strategy, karena kan kita tahu produk sustainable sampai detik ini masih dibilang harganya lebih tinggi gitu kan, produknya masih lebih susah dicari gitu. Sementara Eco Bamboo Bali sendiri bagaimana, how do you push through the challenges to overcome that stigma?
Thank you Ibu Mutia, and thank you Mr. Ed. Good afternoon everybody. I am Angga, CEO and founder from Eco Bamboo Bali. And thank you too for the ATB. It's the third time we have a event or meeting here. So I want to explain a little about the Eco Bamboo Bali. Eco Bamboo Bali is a like design and construction company. So we build like a villa, resort, restaurant, yoga sala from the bamboo. Now we know condition in Bali is to maybe I said like over development. So like in the south or something, so many concrete and so many replace like we call it rice paddy to change by concrete building or something that to make the like global apa nih, pemanasan global ya global. So yeah, it's not like a Bali before. So now our focusing is for the nature contraction. So if we want to make the green environment seperti itu. So this one we want to building in harmony with the nature. So our design, our building is mostly blend with the nature, especially like in the mountain, near rice paddy, and in the beach. So maybe now many building like in the sediment area, maybe in the beach now, and maybe in Potato Heads already use the bamboo, like Nuanu. In other place the resort they want to change like concrete to be nature, use wood or bamboo. And I want to share a little about why we choosing bamboo with another material, because we believe bamboo can be grow fast and the root can be good to save the water. Normally in the crisis area or crisis land, maybe in the hill or something, it's very strong and it's a long last if we are treatment good. Because we Eco Bamboo Bali, we have our own factory, so we treat our bamboo with the chemical too, like maybe like boric acid. So we boiling with the chemical almost is 2 days. So bamboo is mostly like a sweet. Why I like tell it sweet? A bamboo in the seed or in the young we can eat. In Indonesia we call it rebung ya. Maybe in the English sometimes we can eat the bamboo because bamboo seed. Now why the bugs really like the bamboo? Because they sweet. So for bamboo is a long last, is a strong. We must make the glucose in the bamboo with the treatment. We boiling with the chemical. So the glucose go out inside the chemical, make the bamboo long last or strong, near like wood and the concrete. In our experience right now, bamboo for the construction can be strong until 20 years. 20 years bamboo with the structure. And we already make a bamboo in the Bali area, namanya Bali Nusra we call, and Lombok and Sumba will do a process for that, Mrs. Okay, for the next, yeah. So I already told it about bamboo is fast renewable growth, strong and flexible, and low carbon too. Because yeah, we want to lose like low carbon footprint because like concrete we use iron and the wood must be cutting and waiting until 20 years dari enough and rebuild again. Yeah. So bamboo is, we call it in Indonesia like tebang pilih, is like who is ready to harvest is almost 3 until 50 years, just only that. Another root, we can waiting until they're ready for we harvesting like that. Okay, this our bamboo factory. We treatment the bamboo material. So we can custom fabrication not only for the construction and we can do the furnitures too, and we quality control process and sustainable craftsmanship. I want to share a little about why Eco Bamboo established, because now it's very difficult to find the craftsman from Bali, because in Bali now is tourism industry, the young people mostly interesting to go the tourism industry, like guiding or something. But now, bamboo is our tradition. In Balinese, mostly in Hindus, all our ceremonies use bamboo. From the birth is ceremony galungan, you use bamboo. Is a cremation, ngaben, we use bamboo too. Bamboo is our what's it mean? Kayak
Signature.
Signature ya. Our signature in a Balinese. So after that. So this is our project. I did eco resort and wellness retreat, yoga, glamping, sustainable restaurant too. So after that, now beyond architecture, we have my own architect. So we have a characteristic with another contractor with my bamboo because we want to have our differences like the Balinese concept. So because I'm Balinese, so I want to make our concept, our traditional Balis with we call it like ciri khas, like symbol like more curving, and maybe you use like animal from Bali, like maybe cell. We call I have the last project in Sumber Kime in North Bali. They use like cell or kime. We call it like, it's the iconic this area. We grow up and we promote like that, so the iconic in this area. So, and another thing, our sustainable material searching. So we work together with the forest in near our area for our supplier. And now we already established our NGO. I have NGO, World Bamboo Conservation. So I have maybe some profit from the eco bamboo, but I want to have a little contribution, same with Mr. Stephen. So want to protect our environment, our world or something. Maybe we start from the Bali, maybe we can go to another area, Java and another. Our concept is go green for the lasting future. Okay, so this will the project concept, this in Saucha, this restaurant, so maybe together, in Respedi. The unique. I want to share with another people the unique one we can make like concept. This is our team process. Maybe this information for one. Thank you very much.
Thank you. As I promised, I want to get back to Potato Head and the Meru, but quick question, Pak, and I hope you can give a quick answer as well. Good if you can share it in 1 minute. Is it more costly for bamboo, and how do you justify the cost with the impact?
Okay, thank you. For the bamboo, depend I call it depend because to make the bamboo expensive is for the treatment. So bamboo is cheap if you not cheaper, but they're not long lasting. So for the bamboo, we treatment with the borax and borax acid with the big drum and boiling. Sorry, and the boiling 2 days. After that, we use the professional craftsman. So to make a cup, maybe because one bamboo treatment with the big one, it can be costing maybe 200 per one piecing. But they long last, make more iconic because as I know, the tourism now is more like they have an experience. They live in the bamboo hotel, bamboo villa with the sustainable nature. They can pay more than a natural building they already have in their country. So they want to experience how come the looks like, the nature, the craftsman like that. So this one, a little one.
Terima kasih Pak Angga. So, jadi memang pun ada harga yang lebih dibayar, it's for a better quality, right? So the impact or the benefit tidak hanya bambu itu natural, kemudian punya impact preserving the environment, tapi juga bagaimana supaya lebih tahan lama, maka ada proses yang lebih. Thus, bear the cost of it. Oke. Terima kasih banyak Pak Angga. Saya mau kembali as I promised to Pak Ed and Pak Dedi, and you can share your materials as well. I would like to ask about what is currently the biggest challenge that you face in driving responsible sourcing. What are still the homeworks for you guys in terms of responsible sourcing? What do you see as your biggest homework today, biggest challenge, and how do you plan to address that? Please, siapapun yang lebih dahulu.
Make me go first, okay. You know, I think probably one of the biggest challenges is education. You know, we really need to educate, you know, not only the public, but our employees and our people. And, you know, we take a lot of time to do that. We start during the orientation process to make sure they understand what we do and why we do, because, you know, this is, the Sanur, Special Economic Zone, is an eco-friendly zone. It's part of what we do. It's the groundwork, it's the root base of what we do. And making sure that everything that we teach them, they can eventually, you know, practice that. Not only here, but also at home, like separating your garbage, for example. You know, that's a good habit to have everywhere. You know, where I come from Australia, you know, everybody separates their garbage. You don't put it out on the curb, it gets picked up unless it's separated. And if you don't separate it, they give you a fine for doing that, for example. So it's that type of education and that type of practices that we can apply not only at work, but also in the home, because, you know, that's where it has to spread. And, you know, and we have to probably get the waste management under control. That's probably one of our biggest challenges in particular. Again, we sort everything here on site, and we have a company that comes and picks it up. But, you know, there's no end to that really to produce, you know, energy, for example, out of that waste. And that's where we would need to work on that bit. Yeah, that's the challenge.
Education, ya Pak. So
Absolutely.
That's okay. And also, I was also told about an ESG specific program in the Meru regarding biodiversity. Can you share more about that, Pak?
Well, one thing I'd like to show
There's
is
a material
probably,
also about that.
yeah, we'll start with I think you've got the presentation there. That's one part of our presentation there. You know, it's an integrated approach. You know, we try to apply, you know, from a local perspective, Tri Hinta Karana, which is the principles, you know, that are given to us. If you bring up that slide. I think I have to go there. And it shows how we sort of kind of make that. This one? I don't know, some reason it's not coming up. You had it up there before? Okay. Well, we can start with that instead. That's our ethnobotanical garden facilities. Right across the street, you know, you lost it. I don't know what's happening there. Right across the street, we have an ethnobotanical garden that we're developing. That'll be open sometime this year, probably August, September. That's 5 hectares out of the 50 hectares we have here. And that includes a reception facility where we start with education. Right, we'll have on display there, you know, all the ancient scripts for the Osara, which is basically teaching the principles of the Tri Hinta Karana, which is about how the ancient farming was done, how the ancient, you know, for the food sources, how the health was done, and you've got you know, a whole range of things there. Like we have a yoga shala, we've got massage force spa, we've got a cleansing pond where we do water blessings. But the cornerstone of that is the education. So in that reception center where we have all the ancient Longto, the scripts displayed, we'll have people from the universities there, and they'll give guided tours through the botanical gardens. So it's like a miniature Singapore botanical gardens for all those comparisons. And that'll be, you know, guided tours. We have about 150 species of indigenous plants, foliage, trees, herbs, and things like that. We'll have a garden as well. We'll have a restaurant there where we'll take those herbs and those ingredients and we'll make very healthy food. But it was using the ancient recipes to make those dishes. So that's a very, very integral part of what we have integrated into the whole Sanur, you know, to show that we really have that commitment to sustainability and making sure that we look after the future. Because this will be a gift that's given to the people you know, and they can come and explore it. And again, go to the reception center and they'll get a guided tour and learn a little bit about, you know, how those things were done in the ancient ways. You know, and I think that's sort of the man to earth, you know, part of the whole concept, yeah? I think that's very, very important, yeah.
Thank you, Pak Ed. Applause for the Meru. So hopefully, by creating this, it could support the effort to educate the
Yeah, well, we
guests.
have, I got some of my, my green tribe over there. We've got about 24 people as far as our, you know, committee. But we like to think, though, that also that, you know, at the end of the day, you know, we have about 1,000 employees on site. And all of them need to be educated, you know. But they're my educators. They've led the way through the Eco Badge process. And they'll lead us, you know, to other very green initiatives and certifications that we'll get as we move forward with the hotel. So we're very, very excited about that. But I want to thank them for what a great job they've done in putting it all together for us. And I think that's really, again, it starts with the education from the top. And I think we've now cascading that down very successfully, which should pay off for us in the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Ed. And before we go into the Q&A, we will hear again from Potato Head. Maybe by showing also the slide. Oh, okay. So, okay, Pak Dedi, what is your currently biggest homework or biggest challenge as a procurement group head in Potato Head?
Thank you. Well, there's a few challenges for the ESG implementation. First is supplier readiness and scalability remain challenge. I mean, since we have partner farmers in Bali, not all of that can supply all of our needs. I mean, we still have a challenge with all the farmers since some you know, some items like fruit and veggies like it's not even exist in Bali Island. Well, first of our target is to fulfill all the needs from our property needs from Bali Island. But yeah, since some challenge happens with the readiness, and then the second is logistic, pricing, and certification required collaboration. I mean, for logistic, we have solved this since we have our internal logistic to pick up all the item from all the farmers here in Bali. And then the certification, I mean, since all the farmers are small farmers, so we have to, you know, it's like give them some incentive, and we put also in our procurement capex for them to do the certification. And then the third is balancing sustainability with operational consistency. I mean, we have full collaboration with the hygiene and safety. You know, sustainable is like kadang-kadang orang bilang sustainable dan apa namanya hygiene and safety is like contrary, right? Kita full collaboration with the hygiene and safety, hygiene and safety untuk collab what is the best practice, what is the best option to fulfill all the needs from the operation. Itu aja sih. Thank you.
Terima kasih banyak Pak Dedi. Very interesting. So these are very, very concrete challenges that I think tidak hanya Potato Head yang menghadapi, tapi I think most of the hospitality industry players are facing this. One is supplier readiness and scalability. Meskipun di ruangan ini dan di event ini kita melihat banyak sekali supplier options, tapi untuk memenuhi kebutuhan satu hotel aja, Potato Head masih harus berjuang ya untuk mendapatkan supplier yang bisa memenuhi kebutuhan Potato Head secara konsisten gitu kira-kira gitu Pak ya.
Jadi sekarang fruit and vegetable kita itu targetnya di 2025 adalah 55% untuk buah dan sayur organik. Sementara saya dan Pak Edwin, kita berdua adalah head procurement, kita bisa mencapai 57% di 2025. Target selanjutnya adalah di 2026 ini 75% untuk buah dan sayur, juga 50% untuk protein.
Tapi tantangannya tadi itu Pak ya, you find it hard to find a local source yang bisa memenuhi itu.
Betul.
Jadi harus mendatangkan dari luar, yang mana that's another carbon footprint
Betul,
gitu ya.
betul,
Okay.
tantangannya itu.
Ya, itulah benar. Biasanya memang pasti itu tantangan yang jamak sekali. And another other challenges would be on logistics, pricing, certification, and call to action. Pastinya consumer call to action ya itu dibutuhkan juga. Oke, I think this is a really good segue to the Q&A karena saya pikir kalau para pelaku hospitality mungkin bisa berbagi juga, and because this is now the session where you get to pose your questions, but I also invite not just questions, maybe for those of you who would like to share your experiences, maybe there are some hospitality business owners, founders that shared the same issues. You can share them here, raise your hands, or you can post questions, because this is the fireside chat doesn't belong just to the people on the stage, but also for all the audience. Please, yes, Ibu yang di depan dan Bapak yang di depan juga.
Great, thank you very much. Sophie Digby from the Bali Tourism Investment Chamber. Ed, thank you very much for hosting us here at the Meadow, and Bapak Ibu, thank you very much. It's very exciting. This is actually my first main ecotourism week. I just want to be really quick, because I know that we're all limited on time. With Stefan Chondro from Kopernik, I love what you're doing. Can we do something on Mansur rice? Mansur, Balinese heritage rice. That's also being done by Begawan Giri. But the Mansur rice would be something that's getting very limited. I think we've only got 26 hectares left in Bali, and if we really want to take care of the Balinese culture, which then maybe Ed could help in his garden, he could actually plant some Mansur rice. It's not a fast grower, only harvests once a year, but if it's marketed right, it could get top dollar. It's a very nutrient rice as well, and very good for the rice fields, the Mansur rice. And then with Anga, hi Anga, with bamboo, just interested if you're going to be doing a collaboration with the soldier flies, or maybe with Toby, for getting the soil after bamboo recomposted. Because I know that bamboo grows very quickly and does drain a lot of nutrients out of the soil, so that whole building the soil again after bamboo has grown and has been cut back, that would be amazing if you guys could do an amazing collaboration, because I know that we're going to be making a lot of compost. Right, and I think that would be a great place to put it. That would basically be it. Oh yes, and then I would like to ask, not sure, Ed, you would be the person I could ask this question to. With the amazing Danantara, this amazing country fund, I'm just wondering if the government is planning to give any subsidies to the leaders, which would be these three gentlemen here up on the stage. If there would be any conditions on subsidies to lead the group within this real push for Indonesia to get to their Indonesia EMAS, which I know is either 2029 for 100% recycled and then something in 2040. So I do think that if there was that appreciation for their work, but also understanding the cost of what it costs to really start these circles and circularities going, before they can then participate and share and collaborate, then I think that would be a great use of Danantara's funds. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Well, you know, I think they've got a long-term commitment to that. There's a vision there. You know, making that vision come true, I think is, you know, governments change, of course, and priorities change, but I think the sovereign fund in itself, Danantara, I think they've gone on record to say that they are very environmentally aware, and while they're driving business, at the same time, they need to balance that with better practices. And I think their commitment to eventually to make an incinerator here that produces energy, you know, that solves two problems for us here on the island. And they do realize, the tourism minister was here yesterday, and she also has that same vision, and she's pushing for that as well, to make sure that Bali is a sustainable island in itself and not dependent on other sources. So hopefully we'll see that come true, yeah. Thank you.
Terima kasih Pak Ed. Mau menjawab Pak Angga tadi? Yeah.
Hello, Miss. You said, I'm sorry, you said that we want to have a collaboration with, what's the name? Oh, Shifa Nursi. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. After this, maybe I can meet them. Yeah, we can contact, so we can know what we can do together. But our concept very happy. We can collaboration each other. Thank you, Mrs.
Pak Stefan mau menanggapi usulan dari Ibu mengenai Mansur Rice, beras Mansur ya.
Yes. Thank you so much, Ibu. And I think in Copenhagen Harvest, we would really welcome in collaborating with any producers, any suppliers who are really thinking about the environment, heritage, and everything. And we would always promote like whatever the product is, especially, for example, for Mansur rice. I believe some of the restaurants also looking for specific rice, and then we would be happy to recommend the rice. Thank you.
Oke. Please give a round of applause. Thank you banyak. Terima kasih banyak Ibu atas pertanyaannya. Kemudian pertanyaan berikutnya dari Bapak yang duduk di depan. Silahkan.
Sorry, this is to Potato Head. You mentioned about procurement on organic food. What are the for the farmer to grow organic?
Can you repeat that
The
question?
challenges of you have to buy organic food, but what are the farmers facing that they cannot get organic food? Is it very expensive for them to sell? Is it what are the problem of the organic farmer?
Oh, from the farmer side.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Pak. Well, most of the farmer is, I believe, they're all needs the benefit. I mean, their benefit is to find hotels or property that can absorb all of their harvest, right? Well, that's a challenge also, since if they are using sorry for the interruption. So if they are using organic, they will facing is like, for example, it's like watermelon. Watermelon is, they are using organic. They're facing the, it's like, apa namanya? Hama. Pest. That definitely need pesticide to terminate the pest. While with the organic, they have to create formula things like
Ecoenzyme.
ecoenzyme or
Yeah.
pest from the organic,
Controller, yeah.
from the ginger or from the galangal and others. It's like and also it takes a longer period for the fruit itself, for the watermelon, to grow bigger. I mean, it's like we have facing that. We have faced that. It's like 3 times. So from the 3 harvest time, and then after that, we can find the standard size for the watermelon. That's it, Pak. Thank you.
Terima kasih. Saya mau tanya ke panitia, apakah kita masih punya waktu untuk sesi Q&A lagi atau kita wrap up? Oke, baik. Sayang sekali kita hanya bisa buka 1 sesi Q&A, tapi saya berterima kasih pada Bapak Ibu sekalian, dan sekali lagi kita berikan tepuk tangan kepada para narasumber kita pada sore hari ini. Sangat menarik sekali dan there's so many takeaways, tapi yang saya bisa highlight dari diskusi kita atau fireside chat kita sore ini adalah bahwa sudah banyak inisiatif yang dilakukan. There are already so many initiative being put forward by the hospitality business actors, Potato Head, The Meru, dan akan terus dilakukan. And there's already so many solutions provided, seperti yang ditunjukkan oleh teman-teman dari Copernic Harvest, menjadi pemasok atau menjadi penjembatan penghubung antara buyer dengan petani yang mencari produk-produk sustainable, dan juga dari pemilik komoditas sendiri dari Eco Bamboo Bali menjadi salah satu contoh pionir produk sustainable yang bisa menjadi pilihan para Bapak Ibu yang mewakili hospitality businesses. Dan kita masih punya banyak tentunya yang last but not least adalah tantangan, the challenges. One is educating not just the guests, the customers, the consumers, but also the staffs within the businesses. Bagaimana kita menyamakan persepsi dan pemahaman tentang apa yang harus dicapai dalam konteks sustainability, whether it's in the context of waste management, water treatment, renewable energy, procurement, masih banyak. Dan tadi disampaikan oleh Potato Head, ada supplier readiness and scalability. Masih kita butuh lebih banyak supplier untuk bisa memenuhi kebutuhan hospitality yang memang industri ini sangat besar. Dan mungkin ini bisa menjadi suatu yang didukung juga oleh para pembuat kebijakan, dan kegiatan ini juga didukung oleh pihak Kementerian Pariwisata. Mungkin menjadi salah satu hal yang bisa didorongkan bersama-sama pihak kementerian, bagaimana supaya bisnis-bisnis hospitality yang sudah mau melakukan perubahan ini bisa disupport juga dari sisi supply-nya. Oke, dengan itu saya izin menutup sesi fireside chat kita. Terima kasih banyak, thank you very much gentlemen for having this fireside chat. It is definitely feels a lot warmer and lively. Dan terima kasih kepada Bapak Ibu sekalian yang sudah berpartisipasi dan mengikuti diskusi pada sore hari ini. Saya Mutia Logowo, pamit undur diri. Saya persilahkan kepada MC.
Baik, terima kasih banyak Ibu Mutia Legowo dan juga para speaker kita. Ada Pak Ed Brea, ada Bapak Dedi Wahyudi, Bapak Angga Dinala dan juga Bapak Steven. Dan hadirin sekalian, selanjutnya mari kita saksikan token of appreciation kepada para moderator dan juga speaker kita pada fireside chat pada session 3 kali ini. Untuk itu kami mengundang dengan hormat Ibu Rahmi dari Ecotourism Bali untuk menyerahkan token of appreciation kepada para speaker dan juga moderator. Baik, inilah dia sesi penyerahan token kepada para pembicara kita di Fireside Chat, Driving ESG Frameworks in Hospitality. Terima kasih banyak atas kontribusinya. Terima kasih banyak atas kontribusinya. Semoga kerjasama ini dapat terus berkelanjutan dan juga memberikan dampak positif bagi keberlangsungan pariwisata ke depannya. Baik, terima kasih juga kepada Bapak Ed. Oke, silakan agak maju ke depan untuk foto session. Oke, baik. Oke, akan saya pandu dalam hitungan 1, 2, 3. Sekali lagi 1, 2, 3. Baik, terima kasih kepada moderator dan juga para speakers. Please return to your seat. Terima kasih, disilakan kembali ke tempat.